Yeah, exactly. Yes, and it starts to become emotional. And there's a point where you kind of start letting go of what you're watching, and you just start feeling the movie, as opposed to critiquing it or going, "Why this scene should maybe be back there or taken out altogether." And you start just feeling the movie, and that's kind of where, for me, my work begins. Is when I just start to be able to feel the film and understand and kind of emotionally translate that then into music back to the audience. Here's how I felt when I watched the movie.
Yeah. When you say that, it reminds me of the married life sequence in Up.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw that. I mean, it literally it made me cry.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anything. I was just watching these storyboards of, like, you know, in some cases stick figures, in other cases more realized drawings. But it was the story that was going on behind it, not so much in what form it was in. And it was a really emotional thing. And I remember thinking to myself, how on earth am I ever going to do? I should just quit now. Why am I doing? Why did I say yes to this?
But your music actually made me cry, like probably twice as much as I would have. So it worked.
Wow.
It was great.
Like I said, you know, what you hear musically for me is how I felt when I watched it. You know, that's what I like to hopefully do is give that to you, the audience. Here's how I felt, and you know, and you either are along for the ride or not or whatever.
Yeah.
That's great. It is great. Okay, now I think we should get to our questions. This one's for Jay. What is it like to approve Cars merchandise? That's interesting.
The world of Cars is gigantic, and one day I sit down and I start doing the math of how much I traveled for Cars in the last year and a half, and I went to 9 countries on behalf of Cars stuff. And I went to like 8 different states working on either theme parks or video games or consumer products or publishing or some Cars-related thing. And the consumer products is really cool because there is something about the car, die-cast cars that are so cool. I'm a big die-cast car nut as a kid. I always was. I loved Hot Wheels as a kid. And I remember on the first Cars, when we started, John was like, we got to have Mattel do the cars because they did Hot Wheels, they'll knock it out of the park. And so we went to them and we said, okay, cool, we're going to, and remember, this is in the days when there was no Cars yet. So John's trying to explain to Mattel, hey, we're going to do this movie about cars, but they're characters. And they got, you know, faces on the front. There's eyes in the windshield. And the guys at Mattel are looking at us like, okay, like Thomas the Tank Engine? No, not like Thomas the Tank Engine. These are really cool. Like, they're characters and they're cars. And they're like, okay. And he's like, so I want to make small diecast. He said, okay, so Hot Wheel size? And he goes, no, I don't want him to work on the track with Hot Wheels because they're not cars. They're characters in cars. Okay, so you don't want them to work with our tracks? No, they need to be their own scale, bigger so you can see the faces. And John's telling this, and it's like he's speaking another language, and they're just looking through him like, this guy's a nutcase. So basically, he finally talks them into it, and they go, okay, we'll do a line of die-cast cars for you. We're just going to do, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10, and we'll, you know, that should be good. We'll just see how it does. And the cars came out, and they were just obliterated. Like, there was empty holes where people had dug through them trying to find cars, and just a hole dug out in the wall. And they went nuts buying all these original die-cast cars. And so Mattel sort of like ran back to, okay, so what can we do next? What other cars can we make? And it was this huge shift of them coming to us going, okay, and Cars toys began to, the die-cast began to sell more than Hot Wheels. It's like, wow, I guess John was right about that one. So now it's cool because now Mattel's like, hey, what do you guys want to make? Come look, let's work together. So it's amazing. Like, yeah, amazing. Like there's some change. No, and they've been great. Like, you know, they want to keep seeing that world obviously grow. It helps them too. And the toys are phenomenal. And when there's really good ones that are smart toys, it makes a difference. I remember John was like, you guys need to do the stow and go. He loved the old, you remember the Hot Wheels carrying case, the stow and go, pop it open into place, and he's like, there's something cool about that. And they're like, yeah, John, we don't make that anymore. He's like, do the stow and go, it's cool. Make the Cars version of the stow and go. Like, listen to me. I'm like, come on, guys, remember a couple years ago you said you told him that the cars wouldn't work? Come on, it's the same guy. And they made a stow and go thing for Cars too, which is really cool. So it's a blast.
What does it look like?
It's basically, I think they started with the Radiator Springs, a pop-down Radiator Springs one, and they're hopefully going to do like a Tokyo airport.
That's cool.
It's going to be fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. For Michael from Kevin, what led to the writing of the Space Mountain score?
Whoa.
That's actually a funny story. I mean, look, I was after The Incredibles, and I remember I got a call from someone asking, you know, would you have any interest in writing for a theme park? I was like, what theme park? And they were like, you know, for Disneyland. I was like, which attraction? And they were like, space. And they literally didn't even get space out of their mouth. I was like, yes, I'm going to do it. Absolutely, I'm going to do it. Because I absolutely love that attraction. So but so I went and met with Imagineering, and they were like, okay, you know, you're on board, this is great, here's what we're going to do, it's going to be like this, going to have onboard audio, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, great, can we go down and maybe ride the attraction a few times so we can get some ideas? And they're like, yeah, about that, we took it all apart, it's now just in pieces. And I'm like, well, how are we going to figure out what we're doing? They're like, well, there's one just like it in Japan, so we're going to have to go there. And I'm like, really? We're going to Japan? And then they were like, yeah, and we're going to stop in Paris so we can actually, we're going to have you do that one as well.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, we're going to Paris and then Japan and then back home. And they were like, yep, all in 6 days. And I was like, what? So we got on the plane, went to Paris, literally got off the plane, went straight to the park, started riding that thing, the Space Mountain in Paris, and I was on it like 25, 30 times, right?
Wow.
I'm like, can we eat now? Can we, so we go.
It's a good thing you didn't eat before you rode it 25 times.
Yeah. Did that, came back the next morning, did the exact same thing. They had closed it down for us so we could do this. Then after that evening, got on a plane, headed to Japan, and did the exact same thing there. You should, I mean, when you look at pictures of me from that trip, I have these bags under my eyes. It's terrible.
You should have bought the photo at the end of every ride.
Yeah, the first one is like this.
Yeah. It's just your head sticking out of the top of the car.
It was great fun. It was so much fun. Now, the bad thing is they didn't. I guess they didn't do that complete redo here.
Yeah.
So we got to get on that.
Yeah. I know we would all like that. All right. Now, Jonas, let's see. You would know this certainly. Who comes up with the ideas for what the characters look like?
Well, everything kind of comes out of the vision of the directors. I mean, in the case of Up, or even in Monsters, Inc. with Pete Docter, who I've worked with very closely, I mean, it all comes out of story. So, Up, I just remembered some of those, I showed some of those drawings earlier of Carl Fredrickson just drawing an old guy. And as the story evolved, the design started to settle in about what he needed to be.
So the director makes the final, that's it?
Yeah, well, the director directs it. We bring out an art department and character designers who fall into the story and read the script and watch the story reel, and they start pulling things out of the story reel and really fleshing out the key designs. Monsters, Inc. was a really tough challenge, because if you could imagine starting with a blank slate on Monsters, Inc., what do monsters look like? We didn't want them to be too horrible. We didn't want them to be too much like Muppets. But sky's the limit. There's no rules.
Right.
They can have one eye, 3 heads, whatever. And so it took a lot of iteration. I think Sullivan, we did sculpts.
25
different
different clay sculpts that Jerome did for Sully. They